Okay, let's get this started. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Tour de PECO. And you will, as usual, hear the latest news from our 6 countries. I have with me my 6 colleagues, Julia in Romania, Dominika in Slovakia, Joseph in Czech Republic, Sylvia in Poland, Edina in Hungary, and our special guest today, Noémie PIASKOWSKI from the Economic Department of the French Embassy in Poland, who is in charge of the region. So let's start with the Tour de PECO macroeconomic data, and I'll ask Julia to start. Julia, what's up in Romania? How is the situation now? Julia, your mic is off. Switch on your microphone.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Sonia. So in Romania, Romania recorded the highest economic growth in the European Union in the 3rd quarter of 2022. So we end up this year with an economic growth between 4 and 6%, with a forecast of stabilization in 2023 to 1.8% and 2.2% in 2024. As for the inflation rate, now it is at 15.3%. Consumer prices in October continue to increase because since the beginning of the year, we note 1.3% in October compared to September. Inflation is expected to reach the highest peak at the end of 2022. It will remain high in 2023, and then it will be a decline in 2024. The unemployment rate in Romania now in November is 5.3%. We noticed a slight increase compared to September. The labor market is still very tight, especially for sectors as IT, business services, or industries. The average salary growth was this year about 10% to compensate the inflation, and the same rate is expected for the next year. However, for this year, the increases made by the companies have not fully covered the increase of the inflation. Still about the labor market trends, why the unemployment rate has increased in November compared to September, is because some companies decided to reduce the number of employees and to focus on business critical skills. Many sectors are investing in automation to compensate this downsizing and concentrate in more in added value services. Flexibility for remote work is business as usual, I think, as everywhere. The business practice is today at about 60-40% in favor of the remote work, in order to accommodate mainly the transportation constraints. Last week we had the communication of our barometer, is a business barometer at the CCE Fair, that indicates in a nutshell that companies are externally challenged by the geopolitical crisis, the social environment, and the economic dynamics in the European region. But Romania stays attractive, which is confirmed by the increase of the foreign direct investments in 2022. And the business sentiment for the next year is rather optimistic. So this is Romania. Thank you. Sanya, you have the micro off.
I said the situation is not that bad overall. Okay, let's move to Slovakia. What's up in Bratislava, Dominika?
Good afternoon from Bratislava. As for the Slovak economy, it grew by 0.3% in the third quarter compared to the previous 3 months. The economy recorded a year-on-year GDP increase of 1.2%. Our economy is now mainly supported by strong domestic demand, but also the key industrial sector, production of motor vehicles. The good development of our business partners also contributed to this increase. Plus, there was an improvement in the supply of components for the automotive industry, which helped boost the export levels. However, energy-intensive industries have gradually reduced production due to high costs, and unfortunately, the economists expect a decline in the economy next year. At the end of October, the government published its long-awaited aid for enterprises. Labor and Social Affairs Minister said that his ministry had prepared 900 million euros in the next year's draft budget to be used for the households. The amount should be specifically used for expensive electricity, gas, and heat. They also promised some help for all small and medium enterprises. Also, energy-intensive businesses can now apply to the Ministry of Economy for financial compensation due to high energy bills. Up to about 120 companies meet the criteria. The ministry will distribute 40 million euros among the firms by the end of this year. In total, the draft of state budget includes 3.5 billion euros, which are to be used for the energy compensation. However, the budget has not yet been approved, so we will see. If we talk about inflation, its level rose to 14.9%, which is the highest figure since the beginning of the millennium. The last time it was higher was in June 2000, when it exceeded 15%. But we noticed some good changes in the labor market. The unemployment rate is the lowest since the pandemic began. For the first time in 2.5 years, it has fallen below 6%. Also, the number of foreigners working in Slovakia is increasing every month. Year on year, this is an increase of 15,000 foreigners, and the largest group are Ukrainians. 3 out of 10 foreigners in Slovakia worked in our capital, Bratislava, at the end of the last month. So that's it from Slovakia.
Thank you so much, Dominika. Moving a little bit up north to Czech Republic. Joseph, what's up in Prague?
Hello from Prague. So the Czech Republic, the inflation has in every country increased. So according to Czech Statistical Office, the inflation for the month of October was 15.1. But however, this result was a little bit influenced by the methodology by which the Statistical Office approached the cost reduction tariff by the government. So the real inflation is somewhere around 18.6. That makes Czech Republic one of the countries in Europe where the prices increased almost the most. And the main problem at the moment are the prices of food. The overall inflation this year is expected to be around 15.5%, and double-digit inflation should be expected at least until the middle of the next year. And according to economists, we have not yet reached the highest peak of inflation. Unemployment, that's a little bit more positive because it was 3.5 in October. So on average, there were 0.8 applicants per position. And it's still one of the lowest unemployment rates in the EU. And what is also very interesting and very positive to add is that at the end of October, there were some 96,000 Ukrainian refugees who were working on territory of the Czech Republic, mainly women, and it didn't do anything with the unemployment. On the contrary, it's a little bit tougher in Czech Republic to find a workforce. GDP growth for this year, the GDP should grow at rate of 2.2. Next year, the growth will slow down to 1.1%, and households will continue to struggle with the effects of high inflation next year. So the dynamics of their consumption should remain rather low, as it is the case nowadays. And the last but not least, the key interest rate stays at 7%. And should go down once the inflation will decrease. So hopefully in the middle of the next year. So that's all from Czech Republic.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you so much. Where haven't we been yet? Poland, Sylvia.
Hello from Warsaw. So in Poland, the situation concerning inflation is a little bit similar. So we have recently in Poland a phenomenon of galloping inflation, and the prices of energy, gas, fuel, and foods are rising month by month. Inflation comes right now in at highest level in over 26 years. And right now, the rate in October was on the level of 17.9%. And just to show you the evolution of this indicator, in October 2022, it was 3.1%. And in October 2021, it was 6.8%. So the inflation is very, very important. In Poland, the annual inflation rate is estimated at the level of about 14.5%. So it's really important, especially the rising prices of also food products at the level of 22%. So it's really, really important. Concerning the GDP, we have right now the GDP that is following. Also, we have started well this year, the level of 8.5% in the first quarter. Second quarter, it was of the level of 5.5%, and third quarter it was 3.5%. However, in general, GDP overall expected in the end of this year is as a level of about 3.8%. And the forecast for 2023 is 0.5% of increase of GDP. Concerning the unemployment in Poland, so this is we can say that following the recent Eurostat data from September 2022, we have one of the lowest unemployment rates in European Union. So it was at 2.6. So it is actually good, but for employers, of course, we have a big challenges right now on the Polish labor market, because we have the wage pressure, of course, talent shortage. We have Polish new order implemented this year, so it's not easy for employers. But in general, the forecast for 2023 shows that it will be the same or a similar situation next year of the Polish market, that it shows also that Polish labor market is stable in general right now. So that's all for Poland. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Now we are moving to Serbia's northern neighbor, whose lady president we had last week in Belgrade. Edina, what's up in Budapest?
Hi, hello everybody from Budapest. So, okay, so regarding the Hungarian economy, So even if our economy is facing now with new challenges like increased commodity, energy prices, a tighter financial condition, we can constate that the third quarter GDP of the country goes well, because it's around 4%, and it's rather good than that. And according to the forecast, the Hungary will reach 5.5% by the end of this year, which is also good. But if we take into consideration all these new challenges that Hungary facing with now, we can project a slowdown from this level to 0.1% next year, and maybe a recovery can be possible later on in 2020-24, but these are just forecasts. Regarding the inflation rate, like in other countries, in Hungary as well, actually it is 14.9% now, but this is a quite high rate compared to the other rates during the last years, where the inflation was around not more than 5%. And due to this inflation rate, we note a decline in consumption and also a very significant increase of prices in food industry mainly. Let's speak a little bit about the unemployment rate, which is 3.6% in Hungary, a little bit higher than during the first part of this year, when the labor market was much more stable and nominate wages grew 15%. But according to the recent months data, they show that rising in unemployment in line with this economic slowdown, and also higher inflation. Due to the higher inflation, the real wages are projected to reduce during the coming months. And regarding the investments, according to forecast, there will be a fall down as well among the investments. But however, now there are some new projects that has been published in the local press, and just let me share with you some of them which are related to French companies in Hungary. The first was realized in the food industry, where Westlink Hungary, one of the biggest laboratory in Hungary specialized in food safety analysis, has been acquired by a French group called Eurofin Scientific. So this new French group will take over more than 300 people with this acquisition, and will manage a laboratory of 5,000 square meters. So my second example comes from the water industry, because Veolia has managed to acquire a power plant, a local power plant, which belonged to the biggest public power company called NVN. And this is a power plant that has been out of service since 2015, and now with Veolia it will give again electricity based on biomass from 2024. And at last but not least, a third investment which is very important for us. This is a new factory construction project by Schneider Electric, because the group wanted to expand their production activity in medium voltage product, and they will built a new factory, and this investment will give 500 more jobs for Hungarian workers in the future. And regarding the future of the Hungarian economy, I would like to mention you a very important other ongoing issue for the Hungarian government concerning the release of the following EU recovery funds for Hungary. Maybe you heard about it, that finally the Hungarian government has accepted the conditions set by the European Commission and made a lot of improvements in several fields to have the European funds for the next years. And now the Hungarian government is still waiting for the financial decision of the European Commission about the subject. And according to the latest news what I have read about it today, the European Commission meeting on 22 November is expected to discuss about this Hungarian recovery plan, but the final decision will be taken only at the beginning of December by the member states. And if this package will be not validated for Hungary, in this case, Hungary risks to lose 70% of this allocation, which would be very pity. So we hope that the decision will be positive for Hungary. The Hungarian government is rather optimistic. And in this case, we think that this will be something that can boost the Hungarian economy for the next year.
Thank you, Edina. Thank you so much. These are some good news that we have heard from you. As for Serbia, let me give you a very quick overview. According to our national bank, COVID and Ukraine conflict have a less severe impact on Serbia compared to most European countries. GDP in Serbia in the first 6 months of the year was 4.1%. Nonetheless, in the second half of the year, it is estimated for obvious reasons to only 1.1%. So overall, it's going to be between 2 or 3% for the year 2022. Obviously, for the same reason, the inflation forecast is on a higher path. We had a 12% average, but in October we had around 14%. So it is to be expected that the peak of the inflation is going to be in the first quarter of the next year. And then it will be on a declining path and returning to the target tolerance somewhere in the second half of 2024 only. As for the imports and export of Serbia, both registered an increase. So in 2022, we had around 30% of increase in goods exports, especially driven by growth in obviously manufacturing and mining in Serbia, while the exports of services increased by 39%. As for the imports, obviously, they also increased during the first 9 months of this year. And the biggest contribution came from intermediate goods, mostly due to the growth of energy prices, which is logical. As for the labor force survey, the situation is pretty much on the same path in Serbia as in the countries that we have already spoken about. It is around 8.5, 8.9%, which is a low for Serbia. The situation is actually the best in the past years. So this was for the short overview of our countries. Now we'll move on again to the same people, trying to hear a little bit, let's say, more good news or hot news, whatever you can give us. I won't ask Julia, what's up, what's very hot, what's the topic people are talking about in Romania?
As I was saying previously about the foreign direct investments that they were increased this year, is because we have good news of projects that already are signed and published, but also others that will come and they are already announced, they are in the pipe. So we have the example of Prysmian, the cable manufacturer that owns already 4 factories in Romania with 1,500 employees and has the biggest factory for producing optical fiber in Europe, opens an IT center of excellence in one of the cities in Romania. And the biggest, to say until now, investment comes from the Finnish manufacturer Nokian Tires that they decided to invest 650 million euros in the first tire factory in the world with 0 CO2 emissions that will be built next to Hungary in Oradea. Also, to be in this direction of the energy and to find the solutions, we have the distribution company in the E.ON group that started in October a pilot test of hydrogen mixed with natural gas. The results of the project will serve as a model for the use of hydrogen in various fields, including for heating. This could be a good solution, but this is a project that will it's for 1 year, and it just started. Another hot topic for Romania is that the EU Commission supports lifting the verification and cooperation mechanism, appreciating the progress that Romania has done in the justice reforms. And Romania is also actively now defending the accession in the Schengen area as a next step to fulfill its European integration. And of course, to have an efficient European mobility for people and for businesses. So these are the good news and the hot topics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Julia. Moving on to Prague, to Czech Republic. Josef, what can you tell us?
Thank you. So as a hot topic, I choose the investment in renewables and nuclear energy, because that's something that we speak quite a lot of these last days. Because according to the latest statement of Czech government, only a combination of nuclear energy and renewable sources will bring the energy security to the Czech Republic. And that, of course, creates interesting business possibilities for companies in those two fields, because generally speaking, Czech Republic is one of the countries that most dependent on Russian gas. Similar to us, Latvia, Hungary, or even Slovakia are in the same situation, where 98% of the gas actually flows from, or used to flow to us from the Russian Federation. So the current energy mix of Czech Republic is renewable sources 5.5%, nuclear 40.5%, and fossil sources 54%, of which 10% was gas. So according to Czech Prime Minister, renewable sources can cover more and more demands in the future, but at the moment, Czech Republic is focusing on the nuclear energy. And he considers that the extension of the Dukovany power plant to be the most important, but also support for the development of small modular mass-produced reactors. And we should expect to launch the first such reactor in early 2030s. So that leaves us with the tender for the construction of new unit at the Dukovany nuclear power plant, which is the main topic of Czech politics in recent years, because now it's in the final stage, because at the end of the month, appliance from USA, which is Westinghouse, France, EDF, and South Korean KHNP are to submit their bids at the end of November. What is also really interesting is that Russia's Rosatom and China's CGN also initially applied for the contract before a few years, but the government excluded them from the tender for security reasons. And the other hot topic, just very briefly, is the possible construction of Gigafactory in Czech Republic near the Plzeň. For the Volkswagen Group, but it still needs to be decided on the local level. So maybe the next time I will bring this hot topic.
Thank you. Let's cross fingers. Good to hear that investments continue in our country. Sylvia, what's the situation in Poland?
So concerning Poland, I think the hottest topic last week, it was the incident related to an explosion that killed 2 people in the village of Przewodów near the border with Ukraine. And the situation has heightened fears that Russia's war in Ukraine could spread maybe in NATO. Finally, this incident wasn't confirmed as intentionally from the Russian side. But of course, Polish army was put on some emergency alerts, and it's true that directly after the situation, Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki called for an emergency meeting of the country's top national security and defense officials. So finally, it wasn't confirmed. So in general, we can say that the Polish market reactions was rather calm and not sudden after this confirmation. So it is important to underline. But in general, we have in Poland some new investments, because the investments increased this year by about 7%. We have an increase of exportations by more than 5% and importations by 7%. And of course, we have some new investments in Poland, rather public investments concerning the energy security in Poland. That is, for example, the first nuclear power plant in Poland. So real strategic investments, and a plan to build 6 nuclear reactors until 2043, for example, and the estimated cost is about 23 billion of euro. We have also a plan to build Baltic Power, so it's an offshore wind farm project that is considered as a key project, a key part of Orlen's group transformation in general, and also very important for the Polish energy sector. We have also some new investments concerning the transport in Poland, CPK Central Communication Port, for example. So this is a plan to build a strategic transport hub in central Poland, integrating air, rail, and road transport. So it's also important via Carpathia route. It's also a very important project right now in Poland. The main objective of this plan is just to connect the two ends of Europe, northern and southern. So I think that's the most important investment in Poland projected right now. And Poland, despite of this worsening economic situation connected with Russia's war, inflation, etc., is still one of the most attractive destinations for foreign investments. So you're welcome. Thank you.
Well, the news are not all that bad. Actually, it is obviously that you are most impacted by this Russian aggression to Ukraine, but good to hear that you have at least some investments coming. And I hope that all these people that came to Poland will manage to find work as well. Move on to Hungary. Edina, what's new?
Okay, I don't want to repeat myself because I have already told some new projects, smaller project in Hungary related to French companies. But globally, I can confirm that the Hungarian government go on supporting new investment project, because the Hungary is a very open international market, and the Hungary needs to have a foreign investment. So that's why the Hungarian government it's here, and if the project can contribute to the productivity of the country and can create new jobs for Hungarian workers, this kind of projects are also always welcome in Hungary. And I think that the business environment is still very attractive in Hungary for new arrivals, and that's why, even if now we live in a very strange economic situation, I think that maybe this can affect investments in Hungary, but investments will remain, I think, next year as well for foreign companies who are interested in our countries, and I think that is something that will help the Hungarian economy as well in the future. And the hot topic for Hungary, as I told you, the decision of the European Commission, I think at the beginning of December, which will be very important for us for the future.
Thank you. Slovakia.
I have two, let's say, hot news. Firstly, Slovakia's energy landscape is set for a major change within months as the third reactor at the Mochovce nuclear power plant goes into operation early next year. The expected launch of the new generating unit will see the country become self-sufficient in electricity production and improve the sustainability of its energy mix. According to the general director of Slovak Power Company, we will have one of the cleanest energy mixes in the world. Economy minister stressed that Slovakia's nuclear power plants generate electricity without emitting any carbon dioxide. In addition, once the third and fourth units of Mochovce are up and running, Slovakia will become a significant exporter of electricity. Currently, we import a small amount of electricity to cover our domestic consumption needs. We also look to new horizons with space agency membership. Space research is something few people would associate with Slovakia, although Slovak scientists are playing a key role in some cutting-edge projects. For example, observations from the High Tatras are crucial to the development of the future European Solar Telescope. It might best be described as a niche activity in the country. One of the reasons for this is that Slovakia is not a full member of the European Space Agency, so-called ESA, but that is set to change. Experts are already predicting the move will bring with it new projects, strengthen Slovakia's research potential, and open up new markets for companies. The first project should be announced by the end of the year. Technology companies in the country will get the opportunity to participate in new contracts in the field of space technology, space research and ESA programs, and will be directly involved in ESA supply chains, which will enable businesses to diversify their portfolios. There are currently more than 40 companies working in the space industry. There is also a strong potential in our research and education sector, which is devoted, for example, to the development of scientific instruments for space probes, various aspects of space security. Currently, there are talks with 3 international companies, and later the EU Horizon Europe grant program will also bring further opportunities. So the ESA associate and later, let's hope, full membership provides a great opportunity to transform the Slovak economy into areas with high added value. So for now, it's really in the stars, but we are happy about this good news.
Thank you so much, Domenica. As for Serbia, well, the hottest topic is that Serbia is playing Brazil tonight. So definitely that's the hottest news for today. But I haven't spoken about foreign investments, and it's been a fairly good year for Serbia too. Last year was actually a record year, but this year isn't that bad. We have by October the total amount of 3.11 billion foreign investments, which is slightly less than last year by 0.3%, but it's still a good result. As for the investments, the big ones that we are talking about right now is by the German company ZF that's building its second factory in Serbia. It's an investment of more than 238 million euros. And the company will be building the power electronics production center in Pančevo, and also they will be building the formation and services center in Novi Sad. And another hot news is actually a company from Slovakia, Inobat, which signed a preliminary agreement with the government of Serbia for the construction of a gigafactory that would manufacture and recycle battery cells for electric vehicles and stationary energy storage. And why we are talking so much about it? It is because one of the investors in this company is Rio Tinto, which company actually has caused outrage in Serbia last year with their environmental and other controversies regarding the lithium mining and processing project in Jadar area in Serbia. And we had huge protests here in Belgrade, and the project, it stopped. So now the whole story of Inobat building a cell factory in Serbia brings back the lithium story to the headlines. So maybe the Rio Tinto story is just not over yet. Okay, that was a short overview. I hope that although we have inflation and the high energy prices and all kinds of problems, we gave you also some reasons to hope. And now I'm going to move to our special guest. She is in Poland, Noémie PIASKOWSKI, who is a sustainable development advisory in the Energy, Environment, Infrastructure and Transport Department at the Regional Economic Service of the French Embassy in Poland. So Noémie, you will be talking to us about the energy situation in the region. And also, please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to ask them through the Q&A module that you have at the bottom of your page. And if we don't have time to answer them, do not hesitate to write to each of us if you wish. Noémie, on you.
Thank you very much. I will directly share my screen to start the presentation. It will be easier. So as you presented, I'm from the French Embassy, actually in Poland. Some of you maybe know our activity from Warsaw because we publish a monthly watch on energy, transport, infrastructure, environment issues, so-called sustainable development issues in the region we cover, and it's published in French. I am sorry for most of you. So I would like just to apologize for focusing mainly on Visegrad Group states and Visegrad Group and the Baltics because it's a perimeter of the mission, but I will try to mention some connections that can be made between countries and Serbia and Romania also. Energy mix in Central Europe and Baltic states. The best way to discuss about energy issues for me is to start with the energy mix. So please note that this slide uses data from 2019 to illustrate my purpose. So we can class the countries of this region in two groups. We could try to class them between countries that have nuclear power and those that have not. We can try to class them between countries that exploit the soil for energy purposes. Here, coal and oil shale is mainly representative, and it concerns Estonia, Poland, Czech Republic, and those that do not or barely. We can class them between countries that have access to the sea and those that do not. I mention it because access to the sea means a better access to maritime transport for importing resources, but also a possibility to use the sea resource to produce energy, as mentioned before. Then we can classify the countries according to the quality of the sunshine, and this typology will be less divisive, as well as the classification according to the wind power. Clearly, I can announce that PV, for example, is not a sector promoted in Latvia, for example, by the government, as they decided to push on the onshore wind development. However, other countries have diversified energy mixes that should be oriented to achieve a European climate neutrality until 2050. Some countries have here bigger steps or challenges to reach this goal. And I would say that the war in Ukraine was a revealer of the situation on our dependence, not only on Russia, on energy resources, but in general, it has put the light on the need to reach energy security, but using local and non-fossil resources. With the war in Ukraine and the EU commitment to a package of sanctions on resources from Russia, we see on this picture why European countries are very differently impacted by the measures. And we can understand also why the political engaged stance will sometimes even increase the pressure felt by the country. Let me remind you the position of Poland and Baltics in general that decided in a very fast process at the end of March, April, to speed up the exit from Russian energy resources, I mean gas, coal, and oil. This situation is bearable only if there are alternatives. In the case of gas, for Baltics, the alternative was their LNG terminal in Klaipeda and gas interconnectors. For Poland, it was mainly its own LNG terminal in Świnoujście, as well as contracts with Klaipėda. But for Central Europe countries, depending on land infrastructure, mainly pipes, mainly oriented east-west, the situation is very tricky. It's the same for oil, especially if we don't change our mindset. It means oil from Russia to be replaced by Qatar, for example, or should we move into other technologies like hydrogen, or maybe should we just change our way of consuming energy? When we go into detail for Central Europe countries, as some of you has already mentioned, so Poland before war was importing 60% of its oil from Russia and almost 50% of its gas and 15% of its coal. Czech Republic was importing 55% of its oil from Russia and almost 86% of its gas. For Hungary, the country was importing almost 50% of its oil from Russia and 80% of its gas. The data for Slovakia, around 80% of oil from Russia and 85% of gas. And I can mention also Romania, I checked. So around 15 to 20% from its gas came directly from Russia, but a large part came also from Hungary. So it was also Russian one. In case of Serbia, the state, let's say it's dependent from Russian gas, but will continue to import it. It's not impacted by the European sanctions. So we had the chance to have a mild autumn, which allowed us to avoid a hasty start to the heating season and resulted in energy savings. However, the weather is not the only element explaining the drop in energy consumption. For gas in particular, consumption over the first 9 months was 18% lower in Czech Republic and even 28% just in October. And it was 13% lower in Poland. In Slovakia, the electricity consumption fell by 18% in September due to the closing of aluminium industries that are responsible for 10% of the electricity demand for companies and 6% for the population. In Hungary, the electricity consumption fell by 2% to reach the 2013 year consumption level, and the situation was similar with gas.
Noémie, sorry for interrupting. Could you just change the slides of the presentation because it's stuck on the first slide? So could you just move on with the slides?
That's not good. I will try it one more time. Do you see a different slide or just the first one? Okay.
We don't see slides at all.
Okay. Okay. Just wait one more time.
You have to share your screen again.
I'm so sorry.
Good. Yes. Good.
So sorry. So in Hungary, the electricity consumption fell by 2% to reach the consumption level of the year 2030. And the situation was similar with gas, to reach the consumption level of 2014. So the price factor here was decisive and forced to make very important savings. However, national government decided to take specific measures to support the population, the companies, or I would say all the economy, considering the high energy prices. We can classify the measures into different categories. I choose here to put an accent on subsidies for energy intensive companies, but also for population in the case of Poland, on price caps that we can find in other regions for population, companies, public sector, or all of them. It's interesting also to note that some countries have also decided to have a national energy saving policy, as we know that it can be very politically difficult to assume. And part of the measures are already active, some of them will just concern 2023. So it's just very difficult to make a bigger picture of all the situation in the region. I would like just know that Estonia is the only state on the region that decided to take measures that will be applied until 2026 on electricity prices. So what about the challenges and the opportunity? To finish my presentation, I will. Do you see my new slide? I have changed my slide.
We
Yes.
are on slide 4, state support
Yes.
to tackle the energy
Okay. So
crisis.
I understand I have this problem with Zoom always. And
Good,
you
good.
see the new one?
Challenges and opportunities.
Okay, that's a problem. I will share my screen one more time. Sorry. Yes. So just focus on the main issues and potentials for business development from my point of view on the energy sector. And I would mention in the top of all the opportunities, the energy efficiency sector for housing, building sector, public sector, renovation strategy is definitely the best level of action and an incredible opportunity to improve comfort of people, which is, I consider, a major issue. Second, I would mention renewables, as some of you already mentioned. So I am thinking about solar, wind, and hydro to produce locally energy without fossil use. But I will also mention offshore, and it just concerns Poland here in this this meeting. The next point important for me is the grid, reinforcing the energy electric grid in order to make the grid resilient, considering the increase of electrification of the uses in general and the development of small and local energy producers. And of course, because I am from France, I have to mention here constructing a low carbon energy sector with nuclear, not because I'm French, but because all the options should be combined to offer an energy that would not hurt the environment, our environment of living. I have finished my presentation. I will finish the share screen. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Noémie. That was actually very insightful. We are actually, as usual, out of time. It's never 45 minutes with us, but never mind. Please remember that you can always send an email to any and each of us if you have plans to either export or import into our countries, or you want to open your business in some of our countries. Do not hesitate to contact us. We have just one demand from Cesar. Cesar, he's asking to receive the slides that Noémie presented. Yes, of course, Cesar, you can. He's actually our member. So Cesar, don't worry, we will send you the presentation that Noémie has shown. And let's say that would be all for today. I will see you with my colleagues again sometime at the beginning of the next year. And let's hope we shall have some more good news for all of you. Thank you very much and see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.